Hi guys, so my name is Emily, and I'm going to be talking about some supporting cases for our case study. So the first case that I chose was also in Florida. It is how microscopic plants solved a murder case. So Casey Anthony was accused of killing his 2-year-old daughter in 2011. Prosecution assumed the wrong amount of time the body had been exposed to the elements. As we know, Florida is very hot, very humid, very bad conditions for bodies rapidly decomposing. Forensic botanist Christopher Hardy was brought in as an expert witness and painted a different picture for the jury. Evidence in Casey Anthony trial. So the prosecution determined the body of the deceased had been in the marsh for over a month. This was most likely due to the state of decomposition. So, like I said previously, bodies in hot and wet climates will decompose at a faster rate than someone who passed in ambient. Also, the opposite will happen if somebody dies in really cold temperature. They may not decompose. That's why we freeze bodies after they had passed. So Hardy stated that the body had been there only 2 weeks based on the vegetation around the body, so the state at which the vegetation was in their life cycle around the body determined how long that body had actually been there, most specifically the algae that was growing on the body at that time, which could only be found in that area in that marsh. So this excluded the father from being a suspect, as the father had an alibi. A suspect was found to have the same microscopic organism on his shoes as the murder victim. So that algae was found on the suspect's shoes, as well as I believe in his car and on some of his clothes, but most of it was on his shoes. So the second case is a murder in Rochester, New York. So this one is pretty interesting. It's a 27-year-old cold case, which is now hoping to be solved. A 15-year-old girl was found shot twice in a cornfield in Rochester, New York. Lack of evidence led the case to run cold for 27 years. Recently, a specific pollen sample was taken from the evidence collected at the scene that can determine who killed the girl. Pollen analysis is not very common in the United States, so it took them a long time basically to be able to test for pollen, or probably to even think about testing for pollen, because you don't really think that pollen could travel. So the pollen found on the murder victim could have only come from 3 different states: Southern California, Florida, or Arizona. The forensic botanist that was also in charge of this case said that it would be a 1 in a billion chance for this specific pollen to have traveled through the air to New York from any of these 3 states. So we know that the victim had not left the state or the country to obtain this type of pollen. 2 known serial killers from those states, Southern California, Florida, Arizona, were taken into custody. They were interrogated and did a full investigation. Um, they did confess to killing her. So it was found that those 2 serial killers had most likely shot the girl, just based off of pollen. So a summary. Both cases support the original case in that specific plants in their life cycle can determine death scenarios. Forensic botany is also completely unbiased and only runs on facts, as plants don't really have opinions. So yeah, thanks guys. Oh, and here's my references.